Hey everybody, Nick Sarnicola here, and if you're like me, you always want to know what books does somebody who's really been successful fall in love with, what do they read, etc. So I thought maybe I'd bring to you my top 5 books of all time, and this is how they impacted me in the time of which I read them. So I'm going to work backwards from number 5 to number 1. Number 5, The Culture Code by Daniel Coyle. The Culture Code is all about a case study on how the greatest organizations became the greatest organizations from a cultural perspective. And it breaks it down, like I said, with high-level research and from a case study perspective. Side note, Daniel Coyle's second or other book, The Talent Code, is also in my top 10. Number 4, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. If you haven't read that yet, how did you make it to this video? This is the Bible of wealth. This is widely known as the greatest success book of all time. Napoleon Hill spent 20 years writing this book into a 1,000-page manual called The Law of Success, reduced down to 200 pages, Think and Grow Rich. Number 3, Influence the Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini. If in the wrong hands, this book is a dangerous book. If in the right hands with right intentions, this can be a phenomenal book. It again is a case study about why people do the things they do and how they are influenced from a sales dynamic, a marketing dynamic, a group dynamic, etc. And number 2, Steve Jobs by Walter Isaacson. This is the biography of Steve Jobs as he's passing away. It does not hold any punches in terms of, it doesn't make him out to a saint. It shows the good, the bad, and the ugly. Very powerful book. And number 1, Coming Out of the Ice by Victor Herman. I am confident none of you have read this book or heard of it. Unless I've mailed it to you. You cannot download this book. You can't buy it new. You can only buy it used. And how this happened is I was listening to Jim Rohn, who's widely known and regarded as one of the most successful business philosophers of all time. And I had downloaded some obscure speech of his. And I listened to it. I heard him talk about this man and talk about this book. And I listened to it a second time a year later. And he talked about this man and this book. And it was Coming Out of the Ice, the story of a man who, against all odds, just overcomes everything you can think of. Communism, Siberia, living outdoors, prison camps. And it's the truest testimony of the human spirit and what we're capable of and what we can do. Those are my top 5. What are your top 5? And just as a side note, I no longer read books. I only listen to them at 1.5 to 2x speed so I can maximize time. So, hey, I want to hear from you. Let me know what your top books are.